Alright, a little arts and crafts time. Here's a video on how to make a Kydex holster. So here's a piece of Kydex. This is a carbon fiber piece, and we're going to do the old Beretta 92. So let me get set up. I'll show you how I make these things. Alright, so I'm going to figure out about what I need as far as the size goes. And if I lay it down on here, it's going to be about like that in the holster. So I'm going to give it about 1 inch there. Roll it over. Mark it about right there. And then I'll use this for like the belt paddle. Alright, so what you got to do is put a few layers of tape over the gun. You want a little bit of standoff, otherwise the Kydex will be so tight you can't get the gun out of the holster. Alright, so on the 92, up here at the end of the slide, it's actually bigger than the cutout over the barrel. So when I mold that Kydex around there, this would be tighter than that. So it would be very difficult to get that out of the holster. So what I'm going to do is take me a couple little pieces of scrap rubber strip. I'll put it on each side like that. And then a little standoff for the front sight. I'll put that like right up here. So let me get that taped on. Sometimes I will put some little rubber inserts in here to keep it from getting really tight. When you put that Kydex around there and put it in a mold, it really squeezes it tight. And sometimes it will be hard to get out of the holster if you don't give it a little bit of padding here and there. Okay, so the last thing that we need to add is a spot for the paddle to mount. So this is just a few little pieces of that rubber stripping that I've cut into a square and put some tape around it so I can tape this right to the side, and then that'll give me a little bit of standoff so I can put my screws in and they won't scratch the gun when you take the gun in and out of the holster. Now that Kydex will press up into this. That's still flexible enough to where when I put it in the press, that Kydex will press up into that trigger guard right there, and that's where your retention will be. It's right here. And then we got our standoff for our paddle mount or belt clip mount, whatever you want to put on it. And all this tape will give it a little bit of a few thousandths of a inch clearance to where, you know, it'll go in and out of the holster a little bit easier without being so tight. So the next step we're going to do is put this in the toaster oven. Alright, so Kydex is in the toaster oven. It'll be in here for about 2 minutes or so. And it'll heat up to about 325 degrees or 350 degrees, somewhere in between there. So the Kydex press is just a couple pieces of metal, big thick pieces of metal, and you put it in here and then you press it down. This is like a medium density foam, rubber foam. There's 2 layers of that. Alright, so we'll come back in about 10 minutes and we'll see how it turned out. So while that's in the press, I'll go ahead and make the belt paddle. And I'm going to go ahead and drill my holes. I got this little piece of metal. It's got 1 inch center between these holes. That's what I've been using to make my belt paddle template. So I'll just kind of like set that on there. And I'll mark them. And then I'm going to drill these out. So I just heated that up, bent it over, and as it cools, it will stay just like that. Alright, this is a little bit too long, so I'm going to cut a little bit of it off. I think I need to about right there probably. So that's what will grab your pants line or your belt right there. Little snag point on the bottom. So that's basically what it'll be like. I will clean this up, trim it. It's way too big. But this will bolt to the holster, and then this will, when you slide it down in your pants, when you go to draw, that will grab onto your pants right there, or your belt. And if it's not right, you can just heat it back up. You can heat these up over and over and over again. If you don't like the way it works, then just heat it up and rebend it. So we'll finish this off in a little bit. Take the holster out now and see what it looks like. Alright, so here's what it looks like when it comes out of the press. You see how it pressed up into the trigger guard here. So this will be a retention point right here. And that'll be our spot for our belt loop. Alright, so now I need to trim it up. Alright, so I'm going to trim it probably right along here. Right along the back side of this. Come right down the trigger guard. Basically, we're going to cut that off right along this line. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and trim it a little more. It's fitting pretty good, so I think we're good to go. Just going to take off a little bit down here and curve that. So I'm going to take that little bottom edge off of there. So it's fitting in there pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and unwrap this the rest of the way. Alright, that fits pretty good. I need to take a little more of this right here on the sander so I can get my finger up in there. So that's what I'll do now is I'll put it on the sander and try to clean it up a little bit. Clean all the stuff out of the inside of it. So I need to drill me a hole right here, put me a rivet, and I need to drill 2 holes here from my paddle. Alright, so I marked my holes. I'm going to drill these 3 and put rivets in them. Alright, I went ahead and put 1 in there just to make sure I've got it straight and that the retention is going to be good, which it is. Feels nice and tight in there. It's not coming out. So I'm going to go ahead and put the other two in. Alright, so I got 3 rivets in there. Feels good. Alright, got my holes drilled for my belt paddle. Retention's good. Feels good in there. Trigger guard's covered. So when I get it put together and make sure everything fits good, I will finish all the edges with the buffing wheel on the paddle and the holster. That gives it a nice little finished edge like that. Okay, so put a couple of Chicago screws in there. And I made a little paddle for the back. Fits in there real good. Alright, there you go. Beretta 92 holster, carbon fiber Kydex. A little belt clip, since I never wear a belt. I just put it right down over top of my pants like this. It rides fine. Beretta 92 is not really that concealable, but in the wintertime with a jacket, you could conceal this easily. And then it comes out very nicely. You don't need a lot of tools. You can do this with just a hand drill and a Dremel tool, and if you had just had 1 or 2 to do, it wouldn't be hard to do. The press is something that you'd have to make with some foam or something, but you don't really need a lot of tools to do this. I bought some El Cheapos off Amazon, the sander, the scroll saw, and the drill press. They were cheap off Amazon, so because I wanted to kind of get into the hobby. But if you just got a couple of them to do, you can do this with just basic tools. But that's it.